In this guide, I'll be going over some of the easier ways to kill Vorkath. These are definitely not the best ways to kill Vorkath and should not be looked at if you want to farm for gold. Rather, this is an easy guide to Vorkath for a beginner wanting to kill Vorkath for the first time, possibly during Dragon Slayer 2. In the description of the video, I will have a table of contents linking all the different parts of the guides for the parts that are relevant towards you. First, let's look at our gear setup. This is about the maximum setup that you can use. Some major upgrades I could use are, instead of an anti-dragon shield, I could use the Dragonfire ward. Although many players use the Dragonfire shield, it is the anti-dragon shield that is better, because the Dragonfire ward gives a range bonus, which makes it best, and the Dragonfire shield does not give a range bonus. In fact, it gives a negative range bonus, unlike the anti-dragon shield, which is just a neutral +0. So despite the Dragonfire shield having better defensive stats, the anti-dragon shield ends up being better because you end up having better accuracy. For the rest of the setup, we want to use full Elite Void ranged with the Salve Amulet EI. This is the highest damage option as long as we have the Dragon Hunter crossbow. We will also want to use Ruby Dragon Boat's E, and if you don't have a Dragon Hunter crossbow and have to use a rune crossbow, then you'll have to downgrade to regular Ruby Boat's E because the rune crossbow cannot use dragon boats. In the cape slot, we want Ava's accumulator. In the ring slot, we want Archer's ring imbued, and in the boot slot, we want Pegasian boots. If you can't afford Pegasian boots, you can downgrade to Blessed Dragonhide boots or even Snakeskin boots. If you can't afford an Archer's ring, then you can downgrade to either an Explorer's ring 4, or if you're using a crossbow plus anti-dragon shield, you could downgrade to the Lunar ring for more magic defense against Vorkath's magic defense. If you use a blowpipe instead, then you don't need more magic defense, but you could instead use a granite ring for more ranged defense. As for item upgrades, I highly recommend your choice of weapon be your main priority, with the Toxic Blowpipe being a huge improvement over the Rune Crossbow, and the Dragon Hunter Crossbow, if you can afford it, being a huge improvement over the Toxic Blowpipe. If you do choose to use a Blowpipe, I highly recommend that you also bring a Void Melee Helm switch with either a Dragon Warhammer or Bandos Godsword, preferably the Bandos Godsword due to the higher accuracy, and use 2 special attacks at the start of the boss fight to lower Vorkath's defenses for the rest of the fight. One last thing to know about your gear setup is that if you're under 90 ranged, then your best ranged gear, as long as you have Blessed Dragonhide or higher, will actually be better damage per second than Elite Void. So you'd only want to use Elite Void if your ranged is 90 or higher. If you use a crossbow, then for your inventory setup, you're also going to want to bring Diamond Dragon Boat's E or regular Diamond Boat's E if you use a rune crossbow. If you don't feel comfortable switching your boats mid-fight, you could all just leave your Diamond Boat's E equipped the entire time and just not bring Ruby Boat's E at all. For your blowpipe, you're going to want at least Adamant darts or higher, rune preferably, but at least Adamant. You'll also want to be on the normal spellbook with Dust runes, Law runes, and Chaos runes exactly, so that you can cast Crumble Undead and Teleport to House in case of an emergency. You can also add these to your rune pouch just to save 2 inventory spots for more food or potions. If you have a Zamorakian Hasta or Abyssal Dagger and melee gear, then you might find it preferable to use the best in slot melee setup. This setup has a lot more potential for tanking damage from Vorkath, but also deals less damage than the blowpipe, although more damage than the rune crossbow. For your weapon, you're going to want the Zamorakian Hasta or the Abyssal Dagger, which is slightly worse than the Hasta. In either case, you want to go to your attack styles and make sure you're on a stab attack style. For your helmet, you're going to want a Slayer helmet actually, because the Slayer helmet is better damage combined with the Amulet Torture than a Nada's Knot with the Salve Amulet. But of course, you're going to need to be on a Blue Dragon task for this, so if you don't have a Blue Dragon task, then you're going to have to settle for Salve Amulet plus Nada's Knot, or the Serpentine helmet, which will negate your need for anti-venom since it protects you from any venom that Vorkath can deal to you. The rest is all pretty standard: Barrow's gloves, Primordial boots or Dragon boots if you can't afford Primordials, Bandos chestplate and Bandos tassets, or Obsidian if you can't afford those, the Dragon Fire shield or an anti-dragon shield if you can't afford that, and a Berserker ring eye, with the Fire Cape and a Peaceful Blessing, or whichever blessing you choose. For the items you also need an extended super anti-fire potion for Vorkath's fire attacks. If you do not use a Serpentine helmet, then you have to use an anti-venom plus 4 doses. If you want to bring a melee switch or you're using melee, then you want to bring a super combat potion with, of course, your melee gear, even if it's just for the special attack. You're going to want to bring at least 2 prayer potions, maybe as much as 4 if you find it takes you a long time to kill Vorkath, and a ranging potion if you do ranged. I also find it helpful to eat an anglerfish at the bank to top off your HP and just withdraw another piece of food. And finally, head to Torfin and get ready to fight Vorkath. So before actually starting the fight, what we want to do is right-click your quick prayers, and if you choose to use an anti-dragon shield, then what you'll want to do is set Protect from Missiles and Rigor. Or if you don't have Rigor, Eagle Eye. My positions of my prayers might be a bit different than yours, just because I rearranged them with Rune Light, but it's the same idea. If you use your Blowpipe, then you have to use Protect from Magic and Rigor. If you use Melee, then you use Protect from Magic and Piety. If you're using melee gear, get ready for the fight and get ready to special attack by putting on your melee gear before you enter the arena, and put on your special attack so that your very first hit against Vorkath will special attack. If you're not using melee gear, then immediately after poking Vorkath, you're going to run away so he doesn't melee you. Unless, of course, you're using your melee setup, in which case you just stand right next to him. If you're using a special attack weapon, you're going to want to put on Piety plus whatever protect you normally use and step over the pit so that after you special attack, you can just immediately switch to your regular weapon and put on your quick prayers at the top right. Vorkath's first attack on me was his green fireball, which was a venoming attack. As long as you have your anti-venom joke drank, you don't really have to worry about this. He also got a melee attack on me and a mage attack, which was his blue orb. Nothing you can really do about that. His next attack was his purple fire, which just turns off your prayer, so to counter that, just turn your prayers back on after you get hit by it. His next attack is arguably his most dangerous, and to deal with this attack, you'll want to turn run on, or just leave it on the entire fight, preferably if you're new, and just run 2 squares in any direction to make sure that you can dodge it. Every 7th attack, Vorkath will do a special attack, and it alternates between one of 2 of them, the first one being random. The first one he did on me this time was an ice attack that freezes me and prevents me from doing damage. When he does this, he will also put on an undead spawn, which will run towards you. You have to use Crumble Undead on this undead spawn, or else it will explode on you for massive damage. If you ever feel like you're a bit too slow to use Crumble Undead, then immediately use Teleports to House to get out of there. Here nothing special happens. Vorkath is just using a bunch of regular dragon fire attacks on me, which you don't have to worry about if you've used a super anti-fire, and the spiked balls are just his ranged attacks, which you can't really do anything about. Just remember to count to 6 and you'll be fine. His next special attack will always be different from the first special attack, so by now you should know which attack he will use next. Because he used this ice attack last time, this time we knew it would be acid. For this, you just want to start running as soon as you count to 7, and just don't stop running, because the damage you take from any pools of acid you might run onto is much less than the damage that you'll take if you ever stop. Use this time to heal up or use your potions, and remember that you never want to be under 33 HP when you fight Vorkath, because if you go under that, then you become at risk of dying to the type of attack you can't pray against when you're fighting Vorkath. And the rest of the fight is pretty straightforward, and it's just a repeat of things we already talked about. But in case few people want to see the full fight, I've left the rest of the clip in there. And thank you for watching my guide. I hope it helped you out, and good luck farming Vorkath for money once you finish Dragon Slayer 2.